evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 265th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. It's going to be a fantastic show. One for the books, you might say. It might be a golden era or two. Maybe we'll throw in some politics, maybe a little bull moose party. Who knows what's going to happen tonight? It's going to be all fun and games. But hopefully this particular game turns out a certain way later tonight. But before we get to introductions of our formal guests of honor tonight, we do have to thank the people that did make this show possible. That, of course, is tonight's sponsor, and tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has done it once again. Drew Estate's Deadwood Tobacco Company, the girl with no name, Connecticut Shave Robusto, services exclusively at JR Cigars and Cigars.com. Subtle, mysterious, hard to pin down. The Deadwood Tobacco Company, the girl with no name, has once again changed her appearance and is riding her husky black stallion to a new locale. That's right, everybody, drifting across the old West Side Plains to the Badlands of South Dakota and countless locations in between. Deadwood Tobacco Company's the girl with no name has thrown countless pursuits off her trail. Deadwood Tobacco Company's founder, Boyd Bond, has stated, former owner who partnered with Drew Estate to uncover the notorious Deadwood ladies' sultry tales, one puff at a time. The voluptuous and rebellious temptress has turned up once again, and only the most resourceful bandits and bounty hunters have any hope of roping her in. The Deadwood Tobacco Company, the girl with no name, Connecticut Shade Robusto 5x50, is now available exclusively at JR Cigars and Cigars.com, featuring the iconic Deadwood Cigars Sugar Skull artwork on both the band and box. The latest Deadwood, the girl with no name, is available in both 20-count boxes and 5-packs. Features a succulent Ecuadorian-grown Connecticut shade wrapper that is blended exquisitely with bewitching exotic tobaccos to enchant anyone lucky enough to track her down. So check out JR Cigars, Cigars.com for, yes, the girl with no name, Connecticut Shave Robusto 5x50, Drew Estate, Deadwood Tobacco Company, coming through once again on the girl with no name. So, and welcome everybody. This is our 265th take. 265 of these. This is unbelievable. I can't believe I've done that many. But it's, without further ado, my pleasure to welcome tonight's guest. Yes, sir. It is Mr. John Hakim of Forged Cigar Company and General Cigar Company. John, how you doing tonight, sir?
Great. I apparently just figured out I'm not nearly as excited as you are. So I don't know if I can keep up with that level of energy, but I am really excited to be here. And thank you so much for inviting me. I was honored, and it's a privilege. And I love talking to you at PCA. And this is round two, and way longer than that short little interview, but always great to see you, and I'm so happy to be here. Wish it was a little earlier, but still so happy.
That's what everyone says to me, John. That's what everyone says to me. But hey, apparently I have a way about me, because that way people just keep coming. Yeah, apparently I have a way about me. People come
showing up.
Yeah, they do. It's crazy. But I'm glad you're here, John. I really do appreciate it. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, like we said. I do have an icebreaker subject, but I do have to give you a little bit of a hard time. So like when I first met you at PCA this year and everything, and I said, so is it Hakim or is it Hakim? You're like, either works. It's no big. Both are wrong. It's Hakim.
Well, it is. I mean, so for me, normally it is Hakim. I mean, Hakim, it's an Arabic name. It's Hakim. My family has never really said Hakim. They, like a lot of families, you come here and we've always said Hakim. But I get so many different versions of what it is. Normally I would answer to Hakim or Hakim, and I get called both all the time. And I'm kind of happy with either. I kind of like the traditional pronunciation, but after many years of not saying it that way, I feel a little disingenuous to all of a sudden start saying, well, that's the way I pronounce it. I mean, it's the way it's pronounced. It's not the way we pronounce it, but it is correct. So, but yeah, again, I'm just easy to get along with, depending who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, I had a blast with you when we originally talked and everything. It was just great, and I was really pleased to get you on tonight. It's gonna be a fun show, like we talked about. So the icebreaker topic that I had for the night, this is totally random, but it just occurred to me that I haven't had one in like years, pretty much. Like, and I mean, it hasn't been since my childhood or anything. Like, I was at I took my son to his baseball game yesterday. It was hot. It's still hot here in Texas. It was 100 degrees today. It was 100 degrees yesterday. It's just unbelievable. But the afterwards, my kids wanted a snow cone, and I just realized that it's been like forever since I've actually had a snow cone and everything. Like, how long has it been since you've actually had a snow cone?
I have not had a snow cone. It's at least 10 years, and it's probably been way more than that. But it's funny that you mention it because I was driving somewhere, and I can't remember if it was in Virginia or Denver because I'm always lately I've been traveling a lot, but I saw this snow cone sort of like truck, like almost like an ice cream truck, and it was not in service, but it had the most ridiculous, like double entendre offensive name. So I was actually thinking about snow cones. I'm like, wait a minute, what does this say? And I'm reading the words, and I wish I could remember what it was, but it was like, it was kind of like that SNL, like sweaty balls dessert sort of thing. It was
Oh
like,
wow. Oh,
like
so it really was like it really
it was
was like
like
rated
I
R.
was like, yeah, it was like fun balls or delicious ball or something along those lines. And like I see it, so I see it from a distance. I'm like, what is going on over here? Then you get a little closer. I'm like, oh, that's snow cone. And then it made me think, like you, I haven't had a snow cone in forever. I mean, I'm more of like an ice cream and like chocolates kind of guy. Like so, the water ice and stuff is not as exciting for me. Like just the sugary stuff. Like I'll eat pixie sticks and sugar candies like that, but I'm definitely more of a ice cream or chocolate guy. But no, I have not had a smoke in a long time.
I just remember like the good flavors too. Like, it's really funny. Like a bunch of like adults, like I'm not young and I'm not old, but I mean, like they had a really nice list of flavor and stuff like available. It was pretty good. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And like some of the adults are like around my age, like, I don't remember this as a kid. I was like, well, then you went to some shitty snow cone places. They're like, what the hell is tiger's blood? I'm like, you've never had tiger's blood snow cones? Like, geez, man, that was like my favorite. Like, but yeah, go figure. My 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old didn't want his, so I had to eat a snow cone for me.
Oh,
So
well, now that you mentioned tiger's blood, the closest thing I've had to a snow cone was last summer. There's a brewery that I really like in Berlin, Maryland, which is basically right across the bay from Ocean City, Maryland. And they're famous for these sour beers that they make called Dream, like Dream, but with a J, which is a takeoff on the Wu Tang thing. So it's like juice rules everything around me. And they make these crazy flavors that are super thick, super tart. They're really good, but like for me personally, you could have like 4 or 5 ounces and then you're gonna like throw up or something. But the one that I had last year was Tiger's Blood Snow Cone. So, which was remarkably sour and sweet and sugary and good, but again, you have to split it with a friend because there's no way you're going to finish it.
yeah, I I just think that I don't know, like I don't know why I haven't had one for so long. I mean, they're delicious. I mean, they're just nothing but like sugar and ice. But I mean, like, I
Right.
mean, it's great. It's fantastic, and I mean, and a great treat too. Like, great treat on a hot summer day too. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I was going to say, if it were 100 degrees, I might be more apt to be out hunting down the snow cones.
mhm.
But although here in Richmond, when I'm here, it has been not now, but a few weeks ago when we were hitting all the heat. It's often 90 something that feels like the heat index is 100 and something. Now, I'm not trying to compare with Texas because I know Texas and Arizona and Vegas that's turn that goes to 11. So I know it's hotter, but it's surprisingly hot in Richmond considering it's central Virginia. It's like hotter here than it is on the coast a lot of the time, which I mean, it's like humid, hot, like Caribbean summer heat here sometimes.
Yeah, I think that I mean, kind of just pivoting off that, and we'll get started here, John. What is your go-to like heat index of 110? Like, what's the go-to? How do you cool yourself down?
Stay inside the air conditioning generally. So, the office is obviously air conditioning.
Boring.
Yeah, what am I going to say? A cold beer, like not at work, but a cold beer is a good one. Going swimming is a good one. I do love ice cream, like a chocolate chip mint ice cream, which is, a way to do something like childish eating ice cream, yet refined with the delicious mint flavor. But yeah, I like ice cream a lot. I went to the grocery store the other day and got some Klondike bars that are like the mint chip Klondike bars.
Oh,
So
wow.
have a little treat watching whatever streaming show I'm watching, and have that if I'm not out. So yeah, I'm not really. I don't know. We stay in the air conditioning or go swimming or just suffer through the heat. That's generally what I
Yeah.
do. I'm old enough where I just learned to suffer through things. I'm of that generation.
My my audience does this, you don't, but I'm actually allergic to chocolate. So which takes like any restaurant that I go to, like it takes every dessert off the menu pretty much for the most
Yeah.
part. But I will say this about the ice cream innovation that's going on, like everyone from like down here in Bluebell, like in other flavors and stuff, they're really stepping up their game. There's a lot of ice cream that I can actually have now.
Okay.
So like there's this grocery store down here that's really famous and it's fantastic. It's called HEB, and they make a tres leches cake ice cream. It's
Okay.
like I had the other day. I'm not like a big sweets person, but I was like, it's fucking money. This is great. I can roll with this. So
Tres leches cake ice cream.
yeah,
Wow,
it was
that's
good.
interesting.
It was good.
I'm thinking I would like that. I think I've seen a tres leches ice cream before, but I don't know if it was tres leches cake. It might have just been, tres leches without the bread, it's kind of cake in it. But yeah, that sounds pretty good. I would definitely try that.
Yeah, for sure. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, just tell Justin to fly you down here to Texas, and I'll treat you to some. I can make that happen.
I'll get on Justin's the diesel jet. We fire up that diesel G6 once in a
That
while,
sounds good.
travel around.
Sounds good. All right, well let's hop in here, John. I'm so glad you could be here. We're gonna explore all this and more here just a little bit. So let's get tonight's major point, which is always brought to you the P. Yes, it's people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is, but behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Phoebe Cousins, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. And I think I may have missed it earlier, but tonight's guest, Mr. John Hakim, is sponsored by United Cigar. Smoke once a day and start living united. Yes, that is the United Cigar way. Thank you so much, John, for joining us. Really, really excited to talk to you about some stuff, but I wanted to get a little bit of background on you too. Obviously, but before that, we got a little bit of business because I've got a beautiful box of cigars here and you're already smoking, so I'm already like chomping at the bit here. So, but I just want to give a shout out to our favorite person at General Cigar Company. No, not Justin Andrews, but yes, Victoria, who just sent this lovely box here of Chillin Moose, the Bull Moose Maduro. Got the 5x60 here. I know Coop's excited for me. He's a big Gordo smoker, so I know he wants me to crack these open. But I'm excited to smoke this cigar tonight, John. So thanks to Victoria, thanks to you for allowing me to partake. So this is good stuff.
Yeah, Victoria hooks us all up. Sure, she certainly was keeping us all on the rails at PCA. I kept looking over to her like this to see if I'm crossing a line somewhere because she's been at this for a while and is very good at it, and certainly sends out the goodies to everybody. So yeah, shout out to Victoria. Yeah, the Bull Moose Maduro, we talked about it a bit at PCA. Chillin Moose is one of the brands that I manage, and that was one of the 2 cigars we put out this year. That was not even out yet at PCA. We're just handing out some pre-release samples. Came out in August, but last year we did an additional line to the Chillin Moose line that's existed since 2014, and we made the all basically all Gordo or all Gigante, all 60 ring gauge or plus.
Right.
Bull Moose, which was an all Nicaraguan Habano. I mean, you start off with the Habano. It's kind of conventional wisdom. So then this year we made the Maduro, which again is a Nicaraguan Puro made in Nicaragua, Habano binder, Habano filler, but with a nice, deep, rich Maduro, Nicaraguan Maduro wrapper. So yeah, it's a very nice cigar. It's great at the price point, especially. You get that kind of sort of value for money cigar where you're not paying a ton of money, but you get a lot of cigar. You get a little bit of personality with our friend the Moose, and it's in a box. It's got a band and a character, and it's fun. It's legit. It's a real cigar, but at a good price, which is I think what makes Chillin Moose, the whole franchise, so successful. And it's had Chillin Moose has had a good couple of years. I mean, people are really coming around to that. You can get a really good cigar without paying a ton of money for it. And they've been responding really well. This is just out, so it's still getting its legs. But yeah, the response has been good. We had in March, we did the Shady Moose, the Connecticut Shade, which was really well received. It was sort of like one of those innovations where we do these every year. We try to come up with stuff. This was one where when it landed, it was sort of like, we were actually waiting for this. Thank you for making it, because when it came out, it was overwhelmingly popular. I mean, it has been selling great this year. People are talking about it a lot. I have friends who will contact me about it. Like, we smoked that and it was really good. I gave them to a friend for his charity golf tournament, and because it's a great golf cigar. It's a Connecticut, won't make anyone mad. But again, at a good price point, really good smoking. Bats, or punches way above its weight. It's a 6-country blend at a great price point. I love the yellow band. I love the Moose and the Elvis shades. So yeah, that's been very successful too. So I think the additions in the last 2 years, which is a lot of innovation for a brand like Chillin Moose, up until last year, there were 2 lines in all of the Chillin Moose franchise, Chillin Moose and Chillin Moose 2, and in 2 years we added 3. So we more than doubled the size of the brand. So it's exciting. It's just again, I've got brands like Punch and Partagas that are huge historic brands, but Chillin Moose is a lot of fun to play with. You get a lot more leeway. You can get away with a lot more, and it's fun, and I enjoy it. And I'd like to do more with it. I would love to have, with this Moose character. I mean, I think it would be fun to have a cartoon series, with the Moose doing something, or which I think is a little bit ambitious, but it would be cool. I'd love to at least have more of a presence online with the Moose. I think the Moose could do some interesting and funny things, and kind of be a bit irreverent, maybe pick up where Mr. Punch leaves off with some of his nonsense.
Yeah, I think I like the brand for a lot of reasons, and I think it's really interesting what you guys have kind of how you guys have taken it. I think at first, like you almost didn't know what to do with it. The Foundry Chillin Moose was just kind of when it first kind of released onto the market, it was just kind of like, I'm sure it was a little unsettling, perhaps, maybe even a little, the dreaded G word, right? Gimmick, a little gimmicky, but that kind of thing. But I think it's one of those brands that's really kind of come into its own, and you've done such a great job with that. I think like just the different shakes on it, and like some of it's a bit on the nose, like the Shady Moose, for example, but I think it really, you kind of like lean into it, and I like it. And I like the Bull Moose part of it too, and everything as well. We'll kind of go backwards, because I'm enjoying this conversation about the Bull Moose part of it. When you were kind of like, how did it work? Because I know you've been you manage a couple of other brands, which we'll certainly get into here in a little bit,
Right.
at between General Cigar Company and Forged. What, when you were approached to go on with this project, I mean, did you volunteer? Were you approached by it? Like when you, the first beginning, like what did you first think of the project?
For Chillin Moose in general, or for Bull Moose Maduro?
Chillin Moose,
Maybe.
just Chillin Moose in
Yeah,
general.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. When I started, my first brand was Punch, and then I also was managing Odyssey, our bundle, one of our bundle value brands. So, which is, relatively easy to manage. There's not a big marketing budget or advertising or anything. It's, make a decent cigar, set a good price, and come up with great trade deals, and it gets on shelves and it moves off shelves, and it's kind of takes care of itself if all those other things are right. And, I'm doing my job and sales is doing their job. That all kind of works. And then, someone suggested, look, I think at the time Justin was managing Chillin Moose, and at that time there really wasn't anything new yet. I mean, it was just Chillin Moose and Chillin Moose 2, which existed since, Chillin Moose 2 came out in 2016. So 2022, they gave me Chillin Moose. I thought, well, cool. There's actually releases, because we had already slotted to do the Bull Moose. That was something that Justin had been working on. So it was pretty much almost baked, and I just had to work on the execution of launching that in 2022. So we did, and it was very successful, to the point where we had the opposite problem of it not being successful, which was it was so successful we were selling out of certain sizes. I mean, to the point where retailers couldn't get a particular size for several months, because the demand was way higher than we had anticipated for a Chillin Moose project. Who knew? We hadn't launched a Chillin Moose in 6 years at that point. So that was invigorating for me, because you take it on as sort of that brand that no one's done anything with in a long time, and you do something and it's successful, like, great. So then we already had been thinking that once we do the Habano, we will do the Maduro. So then we started getting the wheels turning on that. And as that's happening, I was talking to someone else in the office who has been saying, long before I was ever with the company, Chillin Moose or one of our value brands, we should have a Connecticut shade. There's really a hole in the market in that sort of that profile, in that price point, and it would be killer, because people, a lot of times, like, I'm a full-bodied cigar smoker for the most part, so I sort of look past shade. I don't really enjoy a ton of shade cigars, although there are some that are very good. I think Shady Moose is one of them. I think the Fardigas Cortado is one of them. And just so I'm not just completely being a homer, I think, that Saka Brulee, I think, is a really good Connecticut shade cigar also. But it is probably 60% of the market is Connecticut shade. It's just easy grab.
And still the most popular. It's crazy.
Yeah. So after we talked about it, so I went through and worked on this blend with their factory to come up with this blend. And then it came down to the fun part, was really, because I thought a Connecticut shade Chillin Moose would do well. But then we got to say, let's do the packaging and the naming. And we're brainstorming ideas and all these different things. And then I'm like, it's a shade grown. And we came up with Shady Moose. And then immediately it hit me. I think originally my first idea was it was going to be a very similar box to what it is, a bright yellow, like it's the sun. And then the moose in sunglasses. One of our graphic designers kind of came up with the Elvis shades, which I love. But the moose was going to be under an umbrella, like he's on the beach, in the shade. And it was way too busy. It looked like the stem from the umbrella was either stabbing the moose, it looked like, or it was obscene in some way. So we're like, what? It's just too busy. Let's go without the prop and just go with the glasses. And then those boxes, I remember I'm still at the point in my career with this where I still get excited when, we dream up these projects and they come out, we get the sample box in. It's like, not quite like having a child, because I have children, but it's just so exciting. Like this thing you made comes out. And I remember looking at that bright yellow box going, oh my God, this is going to make such a statement on a shelf. I get very excited about this stuff. People sort of laugh at me for it because I really am into this. I love this. I'm doing this because this is what I want to do with my life, but not because I have to. And I really, really, I was excited to do Chillin Moose. I quite honestly didn't anticipate as many innovations for a brand like Chillin Moose as we ended up doing.
How could you really? I mean,
like
we're going to get into other brands
years.
that you manage. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
talk about it. I mean, just talk about it. I mean, it's just a iconic difference. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad we're leading off with it because I don't want it to seem like an afterthought because I do like what you guys are doing. It's crazy with this.
And it's the brand that, again, it really was almost like a blank slate. There were two cigars, that just have been around for, 8 and 6 years respectively. And then you come in, and then the other thing about Shady Moose, and not to keep going back to that instead of Bull Moose Maduro, but it's the only Chillin Moose that comes in a Toro size. I mean, Toro, again, much like Connecticut, it's probably the most popular wrapper in the market. Toro is the most popular size. Chillin Moose had no Toro and no Connecticut. So I don't think I'm a genius about this, but it just seemed like the two most popular things on the market we didn't have for this brand. So we made it. And shockingly, that worked. People said, oh, yes, this is what we want to buy. And you made it. So we'll buy it. And it's a good cigar. I mean, it really is. It's a 6-country blend for a retail price of $5 for a Toro. Can't really go wrong. It's really the experience to me is very comparable to a few $10 cigars that are on the market that I've had. And I would think if you took the bands off, a lot of people wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that kind of it either sways you one way or another. And certainly the price point helps too. I mean, I got to be honest. I bought a box of the first Chillin Moose because I was like, I saw the price. I was like, well, that's cool looking, and why not?
Oh yeah, back in the day when it was a foundry cigar,
like
way back. Oh yeah, me too. I remember seeing them, and I remember thinking, oh, what is that? And then I remember hearing the story about who made it and all that other stuff. I'm like, that was one of those cigars. Like there was a period of time when you're kind of like searching around and you kind of hear these little things online or from other people that, oh, this cigar is like the other foundry, the Time's Up or the Time's Expired or whatever it was with the kind of prism skull that was made by AJ Fernandez at the time. And it was priced around the same price as the Chillin Moose. I remember buying a box of those going, well, this is an AJ Fernandez cigar. This is right when people were finally learning who this guy was that was making all these cigars that they all liked as he was kind of becoming really the prominent figure he is now. I remember buying a box and telling people, hey, don't look past the band. Don't worry about that. It's a good cigar. Mm-hmm. So I did the same thing. I bought Chillin Moose way back then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. I just admitted it, so it's not really. It's not like one of those things, but I don't know. It's a great product. I think again, I mean, when you talk about value and stuff, I think it's really important to kind of put something out there of substance because I mean, there's bundle cigars to the nines. I mean, out there, the available and stuff like that. But this is a little bit of a step up. It's something like you said you can have fun with. You guys do. And it's kind of gotten some legs, and it's great that some attention's being paid to it because I think it's worth it, and it's a fun little project for sure.
Yeah, I know that was like with a joke at PCA. Like there were remarkably a decent number of people talking about Chillin Moose at PCA,
right?
Which was a little bit surprising with all the brands there, all the big brands there, and even within our own booth, all the big brands there. Like we were at one of the restaurants or bars or something after the show, the one day, and bloggers and stuff were there, and people were talking to me about Chillin Moose. And the other guys from the company were getting mad, like, "What? Why is everyone talking about Chillin Moose?" Like, hey, don't you know that's what everyone's talking about these days? It's the flavor of the month. But no, seriously though, it's great. I'm glad people are paying attention to it. and people are realizing it's a legit cigar and remembering
Yeah.
if the other ones exist if they didn't remember before.
Well,
When the new stuff will help do that.
well, I'm glad we talked about it because, like, I'm like at the trade show. Like, I remember we were setting up for the interview with you, and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna be talking about Partagas. We're gonna be talking about Punch." And you're like, "No, we're gonna talk about Chillin Moose." All right, the Bull Moose is coming out, so yeah, like, yeah, let's do that. And it was a great time, and I'm smoking it right now. I'm about a little over an inch into it. I mean, what about talk about it? Real soup, easy draw, nice simple flavors, real rustic. There is a little bit of pop to it, but there's a nice little sweetness characteristic too. I mean, this is, um, you know,
Yeah,
not a big,
it's not
I'm
a
enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
it's
Good.
it's not an overpowering Maduro, and I think that's a misconception for a lot of smokers who don't smoke perhaps as much as you or I do, where they see a 60 ring gauge black Maduro cigar and immediately, oh, that's too strong. It's going to be too whatever. I mean, there's a little bit of spice to it
Hmm.
because there's a little bit of sweetness on that wrapper, but it's sort of not
Oh,
super sugary sweet.
hmm.
But yeah, it's not overpowering. It's just an easy draw. It's an easy smoke. If you prefer the Maduro flavor, which I personally do, it's a nice alternative to the existing Bull Moose. If you like a big ring gauge, you certainly get enough big ring gauges. There's nothing under a 60, and there's even a 70 ring gauge in there, which I will admit is not my go-to, but there are a lot of consumers out there that do love the big ring gauge.
It's
So,
super approachable big gauge cigar. Yeah, I mean,
uh-huh,
this is nice. So I'm enjoying it. Really am. So
good.
I enjoyed the Shady
Thank,
Moose too. I thought that was a really good. That was a good cigar. Again, I mean, at these prices, it's really hard to beat, man. I mean, it really is. And
yeah,
again, it's just fun. Um,
it is.
and it's fun without getting into dangerous territory. Like with some of
Yeah,
characters and
yeah,
stuff like that. And
yeah.
it's just good stuff. So all right. Well, I did want to backtrack there because we kind of jumped right into it just because of the cigar selection, but I thought it was good timing, so we kind of rolled with it. But I mean, going back to your background, John, I mean, this is something that I love to talk about is just people, how they came from, where they came from, how they got here. And I mean, you're a Pennsylvania guy, born and bred and all the way through, man. I mean, what what was it like growing up in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Uh, I presume it's a lot like growing up in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I apparently only live in Commonwealths. That seems to be my go-to. So I currently, since I'm working here, I am splitting time between PA and Virginia. My family's in PA. I have a house in PA. So I go back and forth. It depends. Sometimes I'll be here for a couple weeks. Sometimes I'll be there for a couple weeks. Sometimes I'm traveling. But yeah, growing up in PA it was good. I mean, where I was at the time I was growing up, it was like the Wilkes-Barre Scranton area, like I was in the office, which is, it's not a tiny, like, one traffic light town, but it's not Manhattan, it's not LA, it's not Austin, it's not Dallas. It's at the time it was easy growing up. You had green spaces, all the houses have yards. It's not like a concrete jungle, or at least, where I was, they did. You could just, you leave the house in the morning and you don't come back till dinner time and just run around with your friends. And, at that time, there wasn't a ton of crime in the area. I mean, it has changed over the years to the point where I wouldn't say that now. You don't let your kids out and run around. But it was good. You got a chance to have a lot of good friends. You got to grow up. You felt like you had space to reach out. On the other side, there wasn't a ton there. We don't have a professional sports team, or we didn't at the time. We have AAA baseball and AHL hockey
Yeah, I
now.
was going to say
So we have the Penguins, and we have the Rail Riders, which are a Yankees team. We used to be originally the Red Barons, which was a Philly team
hmm
that left, and I don't know who they became. So, but those were like my college or later years that happened. But yeah, it was kind of cool. I mean, everyone, you come from there, so you kind of crap on it. But then at the same time, you defend it. You know, it's like your family, like you yell at
Yeah,
them,
everybody makes fun of my little
tell,
brother but me. Yeah, that kind of thing.
exactly. Like,
Man,
yeah, this place is a shithole, but you don't talk bad about it.
it's man, it's funny. You're gonna make fun of me. I'm such a guy from the South, man. I've always pronounced it Wilkesboro, and it's Wilkes-Barre. It's funny.
Yeah, that's one of those that there is no real consensus on it. And it's still
Like your last name.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There is great debate in the town of Wilkes-Barre how to pronounce it. You'll see they're like T-shirts, you know, they're like Wilkes, and then it'll have like a group of berries, a candy bar, like Wilkes Bar, Wilkes Bar, Wilkes-Barre, Wilkes-Barre. So, and no one has ever really, I don't think, decided what the proper
Oh, that's funny.
etymology of it is.
That's actually a thing. That's funny. Oh man.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a big thing. And people do say Wilkes-Barre. Some people say Wilkes-Barre. Some people say Wilkes-Bar. Because that B-A-R-R-E could be pronounced any of those ways.
Right.
But yeah, but it was smaller town. I mean, a smaller city. It wasn't a small town. So if you wanted to do anything like metropolitan, you had to leave. Now, the good thing about the area, and this is sort of the draw to the area for a lot of people, is you can spread out, you can get property a lot cheaper than you can someplace else, which is why there has been a huge influx of, you know, New Jerseyans and New Yorkers into that area. Because, you know, what you would spend on a crappy little cracker box house in New Jersey, you know, you can get a 5-bedroom home on some property. But we're within 2.5 hours of a lot of the stuff you want to go to. Like Manhattan's 2.5 hours away, so you can just hop in your car in the morning, go to New York City for the day, and then be home by midnight. You know, and that's a great convenience to have. And I grew up with that, so you know, to me, we were in Manhattan all the time. We'd go to a concert, come home, do whatever. Philly's 2 hours away. You know, drive down to Philly to see shows. It's not uncommon. I would be back and forth to Philly to see concerts all the time like that. If I were back there more often now, I'd still be doing that now. And even like the Jersey Shore's 3.5, maybe 3 hours away. So you know, you can get to everybody everywhere you want to go really quickly, but then you can kind of revert to the security of your little sleepy hamlet, as some people would say.
Well, I mean, and even there's some bigger cities too. I mean, we're just talking about Pennsylvania. I mean, like you can go up to New York City. It's not that far either.
Yeah, I mentioned New York 2.5 hours. So we would be there in the Bronx now. So which is quite different than Manhattan, and a bit different than Queens and Brooklyn, some parts. But so I don't sleep anymore because I'm worried about him. But yeah, I love it there. I love just shopping in Manhattan and going to shows in Manhattan and going out to eat in Manhattan. Always have. It's always been kind of close to me. I think growing up as like that kid that grew up on punk rock and hip hop, like New York's where you'd want to be. And it's, you know, I had been to CBGB's before it closed down. I'd been to the Tower Records down by Greenwich Village, like, you know, all those kind of things that were big staples for my youth. You know, I've been to all those things and done all those things, being at Webster Hall and Limelight and all that stuff from back in the glory days. But yeah, I mean, I love that, and it's great to be that close. But at the age I'm at now, I don't think I could actually live in that congested city. I love going, but if it just, you had to fight through that struggle and that sea of people every day to get anywhere, I think I would go insane at this point.
Yeah, it's but I mean, everything's like right there too. I mean, like you said, you're born and raised there. You spent you spent your college at the University of Scranton, I know.
Right.
Here's something that I found interesting. And it's funny, like since the moment we've met, we've talked about how you and I both love to talk. So it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise after you hear that and get to know you a little bit, but it was a little shocking to me. You're actually an attorney.
Yes. I would like to say I'm a recovering attorney.
Recovering attorney.
I've done a lot of things in my day, you know. So went to the University of Scranton, which is half an hour from where I was born. And yeah, I've always been, I don't know, back then, I always loved math, really good at math. My math SATs were way higher than my verbal SATs, believe it or not. But, I was a philosophy major, poli-sci major. This is one of the weird things about me. Like when I was growing up in the Wilkes-Barre area, there was no lacrosse there. Like there was no one playing lacrosse in a financially depressed sort of small town. But I always loved it. It was one of those things that I thought that's such a cool sport. So when I got to college, everybody at Scranton is from Long Island, New Jersey, Virginia, had the guys teach me how to play, and then so sophomore and junior year, I played varsity lacrosse in college, after having never played in my life. So I was not very good, but I really wanted to play, and I signed up and I went to practice every day and went to all the games and took a beating in every game and at every practice.
It's a tough sport, man.
Yeah, it was, but I could say I did it. So so I did that. I was in some plays at the University of Scranton Players, left there, went to law school.
Oh, you're not getting off the hook, John. You got to give me one of them. What play? What was one of them?
One of them was, I don't know if you remember, there was a movie made of the play, Talk Radio.
Yeah.
It was, it was Eric Bogosian wrote it and then starred in it. I was in Talk Radio. I was in my biggest role was probably, it was like a 3-man, 1-act play, which is what real actors want to be in, like on off-Broadway. It was called Private Wars. It was about 3 war vets in a military hospital. So we just 3 of us on stage the whole time. So it was fun. I enjoyed doing stuff like that. Acting is cool. Both my kids got into acting, but they did mostly musical theater, but cool. Went to law school in Pittsburgh.
The University of Pittsburgh, right? So this
University of Pittsburgh, yep.
Okay.
Yes, not Duquesne, Pittsburgh. And I'm going back to Pittsburgh tomorrow for the first time in a long time, so that'll be exciting. But so I was a criminal defense attorney. I did it I had a private practice, did it for many years, over 20 years. At some point, Wilkes-Barre is Luzerne County. Luzerne County was interested in changing the way, if you qualify for a public defender, you get a free lawyer, like you've heard in all the TV shows. You cannot afford a lawyer, one will be provided to you. Mm-hmm. But there are certain defendants that the public defender's office can't represent due to like conflicts of interest. If you and I rob a bank together, the same lawyer can't represent both of us. So there are lawyers that represent them free of charge, and they were looking for a new way to do that more efficiently and provide better service. So they actually brought me in to create a new department and create a system to do that. So I kind of closed my private practice and created this department, managed it. I had 5 full-time attorneys and an assistant, and then a pool of attorneys that were independent contractors that we used as needed. And I did that for 8 years. It was, pretty successful. A bunch of other counties in the state, including Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, kind of copied it and did it. And then while I was doing that, it was a lot of business. And I was creating and managing a $1 million budget or $1 million+ budget, hiring and firing, doing all this stuff. And I kind of really enjoyed it. So as I was doing that job, I went back to school late in life, let's just say. I won't get into age. And got
your MBA, right? Yeah, your MBA.
Yeah,
back at the old alma mater, right? At University of Scranton.
Yeah, because it was close. It was there. So and they have a pretty good business school. So I got my MBA with basically 2 of them, because you get your MBA in certain things. So I have an MBA in business analytics and operations management. So that was a proud moment for me, because I really had never taken a business course in my life. I was all philosophy and political science and minor in history. So got that. And then I kind of just thought, I'm sick of being a lawyer. It's been a long time. 20+ years. And I talk to the family, like, well, why don't you do something you love? And I love cigars. I've been a cigar smoker uh, a long, long time. Like my dad was a cigar smoker. So, well, the funny thing about, I said, well, I want to maybe work in cigars. And I have a good friend from college who always had a regular job and then loves cigars. We grew up, we smoked cigars in college. He always would work at a cigar shop on nights and weekends, like just
Sure.
so we could hang out and smoke cigars and get cigars at cost.
I did it myself, man. It's the dream job.
Yeah, so he worked at like Tinderbox and he worked at CI retail. And so he's like, well, why don't you look at our company? There's always jobs. So I was thinking I was going to be working in Bethlehem for, CI, doing something in an office, not in retail, something with business analytics or operations management. And I'm looking at all the jobs and I see this brand manager job, and marketing is not necessarily what I'm doing, but I read the description, and our marketing jobs are kind of way different than most marketing jobs. It's a lot of product development, and marketing. So, we're coming up with these concepts for the cigar that we're going to put out. We're working with the factory and the blend team to get the blend we want. Some of us are more involved than others, but you can just say, I'm looking for a Connecticut shade that's kind of this kind of body, and they'll give you a few to smoke, and you try them and get feedback and tweak them a bit. Or you can kind of say, look, this is what I want. I want some Modafina in the binder or in the wrapper. I want a Modafina wrapper, and I want some sort of broadleaf binder, and I want a filler with this, that, and the other in it. And then they'll give you 3 versions of that. And then you can sit there and tweak it depending on how specific you want to get and how much So it can be any of that, but you're doing all that stuff. But, then you're naming the cigar and making the packaging, and then doing all the actual marketing, promoting, coming up with, buy 5, get 1, and we're going to have posters, and we're going to have, promotional videos. So, that's kind of the part it doesn't say all that in the job description, but I kind of got the gist. So I thought, well, let me try this. And I sent in an application. And because my background was, in the law and not in marketing or the cigar industry, I had to write a pretty extensive, I think, cover letter, and just explained, the amount of time I've been around cigars. And it's not just that I was like a smoker. I was always that sort of, if I'm into something, I'm into it. Like I'm deep dive. Yeah. If I get into whatever watches, I'm subscribing to every watch magazine, and I'm on all the watch blogs, and I'm like learning about each manufacturer and where they're made and how they're made and what models. It's the way I was with cigars. Like I grew up, my dad was a cigar smoker. So one of my, foot in the door with the company was my first cigar was a Macanudo, which is one of our cigars.
I was going to ask what your dad smokes.
Yeah, because at that time, that was the beautiful thing about General Cigar. They got Macanudo, and it was like the first real, like if you want to say real cigar, that was introduced to the U.S. market in a big way with a big push. So that was one of those cigars like in the 70s you would actually see everywhere. So it kind of was, any place you were, you could find one. So my dad would smoke whatever. He smoked a lot of things, but I remember those specifically because there was a candy distributor that also sells cigars, as we all know. It's a big channel in our industry that sold Macanudos, the Prince Phillips. Then when they used to come in a box of 10, so he'd send me over, because this is back in the day, to go buy him cigars. Then I'm like 8 years old, going like, a box of these Macanudos, and no one says anything. Sure, kid, here you go. Ride back on your bike and give me your dad. So then that'd be the cigar I would sneak to smoke in the old days. We had a place we'd go in the summer, which we called the farm, but it was like 30 acres in rural Pennsylvania, kind of close to where we were. And we'd have to mow the lawn, like 5 acres of lawn we'd have to mow. And so I think my parents would probably say, take a cigar to keep the bugs away. So like I can just picture my 8-year-old sister, was like a little chubby as a kid, like with this Macanudo, like to keep the bugs away, just like puffing into it while we're mowing the lawn. So that kind of was the start of it for me. And just, I think, the affection and reverence I have for my father and the cigar thing. So, my father's been passed away for a long time now, but I remember, getting to smoke cigars with him at like my graduation or at weddings and things. It's a very, very fond memory. And cigars are, as you know, experiential. So I just have very fond memories of it. It always takes me back to him. But then as things go on, you start to here or there get more. And then I'm old enough to have been around for the first cigar boom. That's probably when I first got into the La Gloria Cubana Wabel.
That's the birth of boutique cigars, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeez.
I remember, again, I'm certainly dating myself here, but I remember seeing that review and seeing that rating and seeing that price. I mean, it was cheap. It was like $2.90 for a Wabel back then. Yeah. And they were still hand rolled in Miami. And I remember, I don't even know how I would know this, like in the 90s, but through somewhere you hear, like, well, where am I going to get them? Because no one in PA could get them because now everybody wants them because this is the birth of the first cigar boom. So I hear that Mike's Cigar in Miami gets its shipments every Wednesday. So I would be, at this point, I was, I think, interning or working as a part-time public defender in Luzerne County. So I would go into Wednesday at like whatever time I thought a place would open, 9 or 10. I would go into the one office and close the door. And I got the number from Mike's Cigar and I would call, did you get Wabels in? And I would like make a phone order over the phone with a credit card, have them shipped to me way back then. So at any rate, I think I'm jumping around, but I applied.
That's a lot of trust back then, man. Phone ordering with credit cards back when those were coming out. That's a lot of trust back then. This is like prepaid, like before PayPal and Amazon, and no one was doing that.
We weren't sending like a check in the mail, like hold 2 boxes and I'll send you a check and then you can send it to me. I don't think I ever did that, but so I tried to explain
cable some money, Western Union.
Yeah.
You're not that old, John. No worries.
We're giving a Morse code. So, and then as I get more and more into it, it fades. Like there's times like you're more into it and then you got less into it, you have other stuff to do. Then you get more into it again. And, not lately, but the later phases, was really just more and more stuff was coming out. I was delving into it more and more. And I was always that guy searching for whatever the new thing was. I want to be the guy turning my friends on. Let's try this. So I'm always giving out cigars. Now, I'm giving out my cigars. Hey, try this, try this. But before that, when I'm paying $15, $20 a stick, I'd be at the cigar bar, the cigar lounge I would go to, just handing out cigars. Because for me, that's what this is about. It's about this cigar culture, getting people to try these cigars that I'm really excited about, that I kind of hunted down and found. Like that's how I found like Black Label Trading Company or, these other Dapper or Sinistro, these little small brands that you kind of find and then other people don't know them. So you're turning them on to that thing. So that's kind of always what I was into. So lately, when I was applying here, I kind of had to tie it into this other stuff that was historical where, my first cigar was a Macanudo. The Wabel became one of my, La Gloria was one of my favorites for a long, long time. That's all I had in humidors back in the day were La Glorias. And I remember to the point where once they started making them in the Dominican Republic, they then started putting them in cello. They were naked in Miami. So I would have two separate, this is also a peek into my psyche. I had two separate humidors. The Miami La Glorias were in this one, and the Dominicans were in the other one because I didn't want to mix the two.
Right.
So I apply, and a couple of days later, I get a phone call, and it's our director of marketing, and he said, "I got your resume," and I'm fully expecting they're going to go, I think you might have sent this to the wrong place. This is the marketing job, And we just talked about my background and my passion for cigars and why I want to do it, and ended up having an interview with the other brand managers and eventually Chris Tarr, VP. And I just think that everybody kind of saw that this is something I'm really committed to. And I think the other part of it too is, I'm a practicing lawyer. I still have my license in PA. If I wanted to, I could still be practicing law in PA, and you make a pretty decent living doing that. And I can do that. That's not what I want to do. I've done, This is what I want to do. I'm here. I'm not a guy that just, I had a marketing job at, Procter and Gamble, and then I'm trying to move up and I'm going to get one at, Dinty Moore, and then I'm trying to look for a marketing job at Altria, and then I'm going to get a marketing job at STG. I'm here because this is what I want to do. I want to make cigars. I want to sell cigars. I want to make really good cigars that people get excited about. And I'm here because I want to be, and I'm not looking to move on to something else or, some other place. I want to come here. I want to make some really good cigars. I want to make people happy. I want to sell cigars. I'm just into it. So,
well, no one gets rich in this business, John. It's like the old mantra is like, if you want to make $1 million in this business, start with 2,
Yeah.
So they know what you can make as a private practicing attorney. They're like, man, this guy really is committed. Did he see what the salary is we're offering?
Right.
Which I'm sure you're paid fairly. I'm just saying, like, no one makes money in this business.
They take care of me well. Right. But it's certainly not, you're not going to get rich, but and even, that beyond that point, they know I'm committed because the first year, like I said, my family's in PA. I was here probably 10 months of 2022, getting to know this job, getting to know the company, getting to know all the procedures. And I think also just kind of show that I'm actually committed to this. So I think I've proven that to them. Whether I'm doing a great job or not, will I think history will tell, but certainly am committed to it. So, but yeah, I love it. I love the people I work with. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about this company because it is so big, and people sort of think, well, it's this big monolith. No one actually cares. They could be selling widgets. You hear a lot of stuff from the outside, but, for us on the inside, it's kind of disheartening to hear. And I don't know, maybe at some point in history, a lot of that criticism that you hear was merited. But, we hired 2 new guys in marketing since after I came on. And I can just tell you, like, there's a bunch of guys here that really care about cigars. I mean, when we're not working, we're all still hanging out together. Like, I really love the environment here. I don't know how it is other parts of the giant company, but within our marketing department, everybody's friends. Like, we're constantly together. We're constantly hanging out. We're constantly group texting and busting each other's chops. We're always out helping each other with ideas, brainstorming and I think that's a lot of the value I bring because I have such a great historical perspective for it because I was around when the first Cigar Aficionado came out and I was, tried all these cigars back then when there weren't a lot of choices. I remember you're trying to try new things in the cigar world at the very beginning of that boom, and you're trying all these things that I haven't smoked now in 20 some years, like Leon Jimenez and Griffins. And I still remember when the Zeno spec used to come in the tin.
Yeah, the original, the OG, man. Like, yeah.
So I think, I can, when people are talking about something, it's like, I'm the guy that goes, oh yeah, well, Aurora did that back in whatever, and they did this, and it kind of helps. Yeah, but again, it's a great place to work. I mean, from the top down, everyone above me has been so supportive. I don't see Justin much, but Justin's been a big help. He's been around a long time. Our director's super helpful. Our VP's the greatest guy. I love talking to Chris. And, again, Regis is the president of the company. Nicest guy. Like, he's just genuine. You send him like a WhatsApp or an email, like on his birthday, saying, hey, happy birthday. He responds, or when he sees you, he'll go out with you for a drink or for dinner or whatever. He's not above it all. Just, I really think that we're sort of miscategorized. I think there's a lot of people here that really care about cigars and tobacco. There are also, finance people and stuff that are just bean counters, but within the group, it's a great place to work. It's a great bunch of guys. Everyone really gets along. Everyone really cares. Everyone wants to make good product. So, I'm happy here. I think it's one of the best decisions I made. Professionally, certainly one of the best decisions I made.
Well, it's got to be considerably less stressful for sure.
At times, you haven't been to like sales meetings and meetings with
Yeah,
the CEO and stuff.
that's true. But Chris is a pretty intense dude. But that guy's a breath of fresh air. And I gotta say, like, probably even as intense as the meetings can get, you light up a cigar, it probably just makes the sting go a little bit better if it ever has to
Yeah,
happen. So, but
Chris is intense, but I so appreciate that. Like
yeah, no, he's a breath of fresh air. He really
I
is.
want to know, like, if there's a problem, I want to know. Like, I don't want to go to the doctor and have some real bad problem. And they go, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. When you know it's going to kill you. Like, if there's a problem, tell me there's a problem now, and not like after there's been a problem for 6 months. And if you've met Chris, and I know you have, that's not going to be an issue. He's going to tell you. And I just love the way he speaks so frankly, and you can speak frankly with him. And he's, he can be super intense and everyone's sort of afraid to piss him off, but he's also a great guy. And he has bent over backwards to help me in this job and with this company. So if someone's looking for me to badmouth him, it's not going to happen, because I just think he's great. I wouldn't want to work for anyone else, really. If he ever leaves that job, I don't know what I'm going to do, because part of the reason I think I like this so much is because he's our VP.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, he's a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways, and I can see his intensity, but it's intensity with purpose too. I mean, there's those execs and administrators or bosses, for even that matter, that have like an intensity about them that's kind of like, it's hollow, it's just bluster, and there's a lot there, with that intensity that's like legitimate and sincere and passionate, for a reason.
Yeah.
Which is really nice, considering the role he's in, and like the responsibility that you all hold too with some of these brands that we'll get into. But do you want to take a little bit of a break, because I know we got to move along here, John, because you do have an early flight tomorrow. So this is a good spot, I think, for us to break and do our presidential trivia segments.
I can hang out for a while.
Okay, I got you.
Great.
I got you. So, but yeah, our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havanas and distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. Now, I could have gone obvious here, being from Scranton. I could have done a Joe Biden trivia question, but I thought we're going to stick with the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania here, and we're going to go James Buchanan. Okay, we're going to go back in the day here. So James Buchanan, hailing from Pennsylvania, of course, here are your choices. It's multiple choice. Okay, so was he A, known as a renowned orator that led him into politics? He was a lawyer too. Was he B, had a fiance that committed suicide shortly after he broke off the engagement?
Ooh.
C, did he fight in the March on Baltimore in the War of 1812? Did he D, believe in the right to secession by the states? Or E, all of the above?
Well, Bear, I've given this a lot of thought. And funny, I was just reading my James Buchanan autobiography.
Oh, that's good.
All Pennsylvania residents are required to. It's
sort of like good, yeah.
Military service in Israel. So I'm going with E.
Military service. That's good. They just hand those out at the beginning of freshman year in high school, just like autobiographies. James Buchanan.
We don't even do that book like A is for Apple. It's just James Buchanan's biography.
There you go. There you go. The answer is E, all of the above. That is correct. So an attorney, he was known as a renowned orator that's what actually led him into politics. Heavily criticized for his role in Foreign Sumner, obviously. Believed in secession, and the ironic part is that it was still under his reign his reign, like he wasn't the royalty, but it was still under his presidency, his administration, when the first states actually seceded, because it was after Lincoln, of course, won the presidential election. The dark part of that trivia was that he broke off he's the only bachelor in history. He's the only bachelor president in our history. But that dark part of that is he actually was engaged to someone, and she killed herself shortly after he broke off the engagement. I'm like, that's just that.
You don't find those Northerners that are pro succession and secession and eloquent orator attorneys all the time, that's a major loss. So,
Yeah.
although that is a shame, that is very dark. Like, you know, we like to think that suicide is like this modern phenomenon, although I think it's certainly caught on, sadly, a bit much. But that's quite the story. I don't think I remember that part of the Buchanan history.
Yeah, I was diving into a little bit a while ago. Funnily enough, I actually have read a James Buchanan biography. But I remember, because I remember being intrigued that, you know, about the fact that we've only had one bachelor president. And I was like, man,
Yeah,
there's got to be a reason there. Of course, you know, like anything that's off, you know, like, of course, there was obviously there were rumors about homosexuality and things like that, you know, that kind of, you know, of course, because, you know, hey, if you're not married, you've, you know,
yeah, obviously.
all these assumptions have to fly around and stuff. Um, but yeah, it was really sad. I read that about that his fiance had committed suicide shortly after he broke it off and everything. I was like, I didn't, I wish I had been able to read further. It would have, to humanize him a little bit, like how his reaction was to it. Like, I mean, was he cold blooded and didn't care, or did he
Yeah.
did it actually really affect him? And I couldn't find anything. That was the sad part about that part of the story, that I couldn't really find anything going
I
into
think
it.
he just tweeted like a crying, I think, if I remember correctly.
One of the original POTUS handles, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow, I didn't expect James Buchanan to come up in the interview of all the stuff, but
well,
that was good though. That was
look,
good. That was a good curveball.
like I said, Joe Biden, the curveball segment's coming up later, John. So, but yeah, I thought it was too on the nose to go with Scranton's own son, Joe Biden. So I figured you'd be the shining star of Scranton tonight. So we talked just about you.
We could, yeah. Well, I guess she wasn't a president, but Hillary Clinton had some Scranton roots as well. But
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, not. She doesn't qualify for the topic. So
Yeah. I did do a first lady trivia question last week, but yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that was our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Vent, distributors of Jose Mingus, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabay, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. We thank our friends at United Cigar for all things presidential and all things fun here on ELOSOFUMAR Takes. So moving on, this is one of my favorite segments that we do, John. And, you know, I know you and I talked a little bit about it when we were putting this interview together. Really got to thank Justin Andrews for getting this conversation going again, so we can continue our great conversation for PCA this year. And again, Victoria for getting us the cigars tonight. I've just lit up my second Bull Moose Maduro 5x60 Robusto Gordo, and yeah, man, the first one was good. I mean, I lit up a second one, so I can't suck that much, right? It's really good. Man, like, it's just an easy going smoke. I'm just really digging it. I am. Like, it's just one of those things. And I'm not a big gauge guy. I'm not a big gauge guy. I think that's the most surprising for me.
Very easy. I certainly am not either. I mean, I'm historically, I'm a Robusto guy. I know Toro is so popular. To me, I think because I am always so about variety. You know, if I go out to the cigar bar, which I have been apt to known to do, I'll say I'm gonna be there 3 hours. I'll bring 15 cigars because I don't want to take, I'm going to go smoke 2 and then pick one. And then when I'm done, I want to look at 14 cigars and pick another one. So I think the thing for me about Robustos is it's a big enough ring gauge and you can enjoy it without being too big. But it's also, and it's long enough that you can get, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe hour, 15 minutes out of it. But it's not that long. So I can then maybe smoke, instead of smoking 1 Churchill or 2 Churchills, I can smoke 3 Robustos and have 3 different things. It's about that kind of variety for me. So, I'm normally a Robusto, or, I love Lanceros. I would if more things were available in Lancero, I would smoke more of them. Although I think it's partly about the how well they're made and also the blend. But yeah, so I'm not a big 60 plus ring gauge smoker myself, but yeah, I mean it sounds stupid, but kind of smoke smaller. Like I don't feel like I'm dislocating my jaw to smoke this thing, and it is good. It's a very easy smoke. It's got a
The
little.
draw
It's a
is
little,
impeccable for a big gauge. It's great.
yeah, yeah. It's a little like leathery, little chocolatey, but certainly not pepper bomb. Certainly not overpowering. And I think,
I
by
was
the way, speaking
expecting
of
that.
Justin,
I really was. Like I was expecting
yeah,
some oomph. And
yeah.
it's good because I honestly like my allergies been awful this week. I haven't really smoked that much. So I was like preparing myself. So like I ate a nice meal tonight and I'm like, I'm gonna get into this bull moose, baby. We're gonna do this. And but it's nice, it's easy going. Like I could smoke these on the reg for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
especially with the price point and everything. So
Yeah.
but before we get into the other brands that you managed to and then wrap up with some other questions, we do have, like I said, our favorite segment here on LS from our takes is our charity segment. I love this part, John, because we talked about it a little off air before we kicked off the
Mm-hmm.
interview. Is it's just something that I really enjoy learning about what people are passionate about when it comes to nonprofits and charity. So if you're a new member of our audience just tuning in for the first time, I always ask my guests to bring a nonprofit or charity that they're passionate about. And so I went, you decided on the Luzerne Foundation, which of course is named for the county that you grew up in and still, 50% of the time still live in and everything. So, so tell us a little bit about this foundation and why it's so important to you.
Well, thank you, Bear. And I'm glad to be able to talk about it. Luzerne Foundation is, exactly what it sounds like. It's based in Luzerne County, and it's just a charitable organization, a nonprofit that kind of helps other people. It sort of just brings together the haves and the have-nots in the community. So it is basically just, it's a way, they like to say it's like a way for good people to be able to do good things. They help them do it. So for instance, they give away about $4 to $5 million or more every year in grants and scholarships. So it's all for people that are residents of Luzerne County. Most of the money is coming from people in Luzerne County. So, just say there you were a very wealthy person and you wanted to give
sure,
and
we'll
you,
say that.
and give money to charities, or you wanted
Okay.
to help people, but you didn't know exactly what to do. You can contact them and they would set up this fund for you. And then through the activities they do, they would like kind of parse up your money and, Bear, like the Bear Foundation is, giving $5 million to this scholarship or to this hospital. So they will have scholarships for just say, students from the area who want to go to college and can't afford it. And there may not be huge scholarships, but there'll be, a couple $1,000 a year guaranteed for the 4 years that will help these people out. Or the other thing that is very common for them is, people want to have a nonprofit or a charity and they don't know how to do it. You would come to them and they would set everything up for you, like do all the paperwork to create your nonprofit and even manage it for you. So all you have to really do is kind of have the concept. And, as an example, sadly, and we mentioned, I played lacrosse in college. Still always loved it. I had coached youth lacrosse in the area because, it wasn't available when I was a kid, and then it came. So I coached my son in lacrosse for about 7 years. One of the kids I coached, just really nice kid, super smart, just a sweet, happy kid. All these kids are grown. He was an engineering student at Dartmouth, Ivy League. Apparently I didn't know, I lost touch with him after, 13 when I stopped coaching him, but his great family, great kid, friends of other families I knew, passed away in college, from the terminal cancer or something, which is horrible. Just the nicest kid. I can't even imagine. So this Luzerne Foundation, contacted someone on behalf of the family, contacted them. They set up this this memorial fund for this kid. So there's like, and they did everything. They set it up. They made this whole charity organization for this one particular thing. And now, to help other people, there's going to be a scholarship in this kid's name to memorialize him. And really, they didn't have to do anything other than contact them, and they set everything up, and then it just managed through them. And it's not like a lot of the places you hear like, oh, I'm going to donate money to, I'm not going to say it, a charity, but but for every, you see the statistics, for every dollar you donate, like 10 cents actually gets to the starving people or whatever. I believe, and I don't work for the foundation. I have friends that do, friends that I respect, but if you, whatever money you give them, they think they take like 2% or something as the administration fee, which is ridiculously low. And what they do is 1%, one of that 2% is actually goes into another charity. So although you're paying 2%, 1% of it's actually going into another charity, which is the way they kind of help fund other charities throughout it. But they've given money to like University of Scranton to buy equipment for clinics that they do for free clinics and just things of that nature. And it's just very broad. It's not very specific. Most charities or nonprofits are very, children of coal miners who want to study biology.
Right.
This is the scholarship for it. This is sort of, there's just funds for everything. If you just want to donate money to spread out, they can manage all of that. And it just is continuously finding people who want to do good and taking that and then distributing it out within the community. And Luzerne County is not a huge community. So keeping it within that area is important because there are a lot of economically challenged people in the area, and it really kind of helps some of the people who are having trouble through no fault of their own, can kind of get a bit of a leg up. Another person, one of my good friends that I used to work with became the CEO of this foundation a few years ago, and is really just stepping it up for them and bringing in more and more funds and doing more and more things, and is really doing great work there. But long before all of that, one of my good friends from high school had a younger sister who was his sister and my sister were the same age, and my sister was good friends with her. Very sadly, passed away at a very, very young age. And so when I went to see the place, on the wall is this old newspaper story, and they actually created the charity in her name like 30 years ago. So I kind of have that connection too. I go in there and I see that picture of, I don't want to say the name, but our friend Leanne, who passed away, maybe 20 years old. So they just really are helping people. And even, if you were, God forbid, the parent whose child died, you want to really do something for them. But for you to like go hire a lawyer and try to set up a nonprofit and all that to create how would you create a scholarship? I have no idea. We'll do all that for you, and it's a great thing. And I really appreciate the work they do, especially for that area. There's a lot of people in the area that can use the help. So the Luzerne Foundation, if anyone's interested, it's lznfdn.org.
Yeah, I've actually got it I've got it in the chat, and I'll be putting it in the show notes later for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah,
appreciate that there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, John. And this is a project that I started a few years ago on my birthday, no less. My birthday this year in October. So next month I'll be celebrating 3 years of doing this every week with different guests and stuff, different charities every week. And later tonight I'll be making a donation in your honor. Small, but always appreciate people bringing some great causes to the table. So. Cool stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, that's one of the, they do these charity golf tournaments and stuff to raise money as well. So when they do, I'm always donating cigars, so that the people that are there donating money can get a little reward. So there were, I think there was definitely some Cardigas Cortados and some Shady Mooses and some other stuff this year at the tournament, I'm pretty sure.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into that, because like there was a couple brands that we missed. Again, you manage a couple of brands there for both General and Forged. Now this is interesting. Because I mean there was this General makes STG decides to make this split, defining there's brands that are fall under the General portfolio, and then they created this whole new company with Forged, which
Right.
Chillin Moose is a part of, La Gloria Cubana, which you mentioned, Diesel, Room 101, Alec Bradley, Partagas, a couple of others, right? And so,
Right.
so Partagas is part of that, and then you manage another brand that's not inside that portfolio. So let's start with Partagas, which I've always pronounced Partagas. So yeah, Partagas. But
which is probably correct. It's like Hakim.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of pronunciation. Wilkes-Barre, Wilkes-Barre. Yeah, we're just doing a lot with pronunciation tonight. But this is a very iconic brand that STG has had under its portfolio, and now part of the Forged Cigar Company, or I call it the Forged Family Cigar brands. That's just my little nickname for it, but it is in a lot of ways. So, well, and I think it's appropriate. You were talking about how you guys really are. You guys are really close knit, and it really you kind of saw that at this year's trade show. I mean, it really was like a family, just between all of you guys and everything, and gals. And so, what was it like, so you have Chillin Moose, which is a completely different offset, and then you counter that with, probably, I would say next to Cohiba, it's probably it's definitely the most historic brand in the portfolio.
Yeah, I would say, I think it is. I think Partagas is probably the most historic cigar brand in the world. It's not the oldest, but to me, I always, and Partagas was not the first brand I got when I got here, but really to me, as a guy that's been a student of cigars and a smoker of cigars for a long time, if someone were just to say to me generically Partagas or cigar, I would think Partagas. Like the two brands that I think of immediately as historic, legendary brands that kind of define what cigar means would be Partagas and Bolivar. Like, I mean, to me, those are two old historic brands that really have legacy, that have their names just carry a lot of weight. And Cohiba is a huge brand now, in both countries. But honestly,
it's a baby
in the world of cigars. It's a new jack.
Yeah,
it is. It's a post-embargo company. Like, Partagas has been around since 1845. And you think of the fact, when you think of the great men that were involved with this company, from Jaime Partagas, the Cifuentes and Cifuentes' son, like Ramon Cifuentes. I mean, really, if we're looking at it, has more to do, other than the name, has more to do with Partagas than Jaime Partagas did. I mean, it was under Cifuentes that it became like this biggest brand in the world. And, he ultimately, through several other places, ends up in the Dominican Republic, and almost in the very beginning, partners with General Cigar, or sells to General Cigar, and we've had them ever since. But it's just historic. I think, to me, there's just such a legacy about the brand and a reverence to it. But I think sometimes people talk about it and it's almost like this royalty kind of thing. And I don't know that that's what, to me, that's not what Partagas is. Partagas is really this sort of like erudite, artsy, like, to me, it's like artsy writers, and like playwrights and, people who are in the know with Partagas. It's not necessarily this in your face, flashiest, the shiniest penny. It's more, if we're thinking about the hip hop references, it's not, Puffy in his shiny suit. It's more like, something like a KRS-One that's been around from the very beginning, who's legendary, who the people who know, and is just represents, kind of quality, and not flash or not necessarily even price. It's that quality that comes from that heritage, that comes from that knowledge. I mean, all the stuff, the innovations in fermentation and the innovations in like reading to torcedores as they're rolling, and just using the Cameroon wrapper when many people were not. Like there's all these innovations that kind of happen through this brand. I just really think that it's getting to the point where it's sad in that some of these brands that are so historic and old are kind of looked at as old in the pejorative sense, not old in the I should listen to my elders kind of sense. So I think people look past them, and I think a lot of some of our legacy brands kind of have that sort of problem in the marketplace with certain consumers, because it's sort of, you take things for granted. Like, if you go to a cigar shop, they're going to have Punch, they're going to have Partagas, they're going to have some of these brands. So they're always there. And, and I was certainly this way as a consumer too. What's new? What's the newest thing you got? What just came out? And there's all these guys. And I really do think there's like two consumers in the whole cigar market. There's the person who is just fixed in their ways, and they're the box buyer that's like, I smoke Partagas Yellow Label. Mm-hmm. And every month I'm going to go buy my box of Partagas Yellow Label. I'm going to smoke. I don't want to hear about what Roma Craft is doing or what, this Room 101, what's that? All these newfangled things I don't want to know. They never try anything else. Or there's the guys that only want what they can't get. They're like, what's the limited edition?
Yeah.
Can I get something?
The what's new type. Yeah, it's those two. Yeah. And actually, the majority of the people are the former rather than the latter. The majority of cigar smokers.
It's sort of like the silent majority, because they're not making the noise, they're not writing the blogs, they're not doing the cigar reviews online or whatever.
They're your dad. They're your dad. Yeah. Give me my Macanudo and shut the hell up. Right. Or whatever.
Yeah. My dad was probably more of the whatever someone gives me a box of is what I'm going to smoke, because people would bring him boxes of cigars and something. Nice. He was a cigar smoker. So he's like, what he was never about what the thing was or what the thing cost. He was like, what the deal is. Like, you could buy him a really nice jacket that costs a lot of money, and then someone would give him a free jacket from somewhere. That's the one he would wear, because, hey, I got this for free. That's sort of like the a Christmas Story dad. Like, it's a major award. So, but yeah, the point is well taken. Yeah, you get your one thing is your go-to. It's good, and you just stick with it. I mean, and I've actually seen guys review, and I know we're talking about Partagas, but I've seen guys actually review some Punch cigars, and the guy literally said, they're in the shop all the time, so I just kind of like walk past them. But then every time I go and pick one up and smoke it, I kind of forget how good these are. And I think that is really the experience with a lot of these brands. Your Punches, your Partagas, and things that aren't as new and flashy. They're just good, well-made cigars, and they're always available. And we try to do new things and bring out something new to get people's attention to it. And obviously the hope is, oh, here's this shiny new penny. Take a look at it, and then remember that's a good brand. Try the other stuff as well, and move people backwards
or go back. Yeah. I think Punch is one of those interesting ones, and that's the third brand you manage, which is on the general side of the portfolio. Again, another iconic brand, the one that kind of goes. I don't get Punch and why people pass it. You brought it up, John. So this was actually going to come up. So it's funny that you brought it up. I don't get why people don't give it. And you guys have certainly give it. God, here comes the pun. You guys have given it a punch. If punched it up a few times. The uppercut from a few years ago. This was before your time there, but that was a cigar. Like, you guys used Ometepe tobacco. It was one of the first cigars that I ever smoked with Ometepe, and yeah, that thing certainly was an uppercut. It packed, it packed the wall up. But I thought the Punch Diablo was good.
Still is,
and still is, and it just like, man, there's been some good stuff And like you
Yeah,
said, you
they're
go
all
back to it, the rare Corojo, which doesn't have Corojo in it, got to jab you on that, but it's still a great cigar.
yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's people love it. I mean, that's a lot of people's favorite punch cigar. We did some stuff with our social media. We'll always do these. Well, what's your favorite? Pick your whatever, and it's multiple choice. And we actually had people in the comments angry. We didn't put Rare Corojo. How could you leave Rare Corojo out? That's the best one. And people really are loyal to sort of like their favorites in there. But it's one of the original Honduran cigar brands. The punch as a brand has been around since 1840, even older than Partagas. And then, but everything in there is sort of that medium. Like there's nothing that's super mild. There's other than Diablo, which is a relatively recent thing, which is all Nicaraguan, made by AJ Hernandez, which is certainly a full-bodied cigar. With the exception of maybe some of the Classico and the Double Maduro, it's all just a medium plus cigar that's really well made, good draw. I mean, Signature is a great cigar.
I forgot about that. Those are great. Yeah. Holy, see, that's an example, right? Like,
right.
That's so good. That's a great cigar.
Yeah. And like I every once in a while just get the Classico, the punch blue box, that Rothschild size in the Double Maduro. Like that's a really nice, potent little stick in a small little Rothschild. That's a great cigar. I mean, I love the little Double Maduro Rothschild. I think it's great. I mean, I know sales wise, the EMS sells better than the Maduro or Double Maduro, but for me, coming from where I come from and what I love the Double Maduro.
Well, I don't want to.
And even the Grand Cru #2 Maduro, like
that's another one. Yeah,
93 rated top 10 cigar. You forget, like even I have to go back and dig that one out. Like, oh yeah, I haven't had one of those in a while. I'm like, this is really a really good cigar. I would love to do an experiment where we take the band off and tell somebody it's some new, boutique brand and get them to smoke it, and they'd be like, you see what they actually say.
Yeah, we're experimenting with this. Just try it out. Yeah, no, and I know I want to go back to Partagas because there's a couple of new things that you guys are doing with it. But since we're on the topic of punch, we'll stay here for a second. The golden era. What a cool project this is. This is fantastic. What a partnership. With another, we talked about the Partagas name, Cifuentes, but Julio Roa, man, dialing it up for punch for you, golden era, man. I mean, what a great partnership this is. Tell us a little bit about how this partnership came together for this particular project.
Again, and thank you for saying. I love this cigar. I'm smoking one now. This is one of my favorite cigars in the entire company. It's just so good, and it's a little milder than what I would normally smoke, a little more mellow, but just so good and so flavorful. I love it. But so we had a plan. We're working on these plans well in advance, like well in advance. So my project I wanted to come up with something that was a little more elegant and upscale as a full-time cigar or punch, because most of our stuff lives in the same price range, same sort of that, again, medium plus profile, sort of $8 to $10 range. And I wanted to come up with something like when we did the 180, the Anniversario, was a higher price point, and it was really successful. Great cigar, people really liked it. And my thought was, let's make something like that full time. So I was actually working on the naming convention and the packaging and blends. I was working on blends with the factory for this upscale cigar I was going to make. And then in the meantime, somehow I think Justin, doing what he does with third parties, kind of came to me and said, hey, Aero wants to work with you on a punch cigar, like a Corojo. I'm like, again, I'm a boutique cigar guy before I got to this company, and I still smoke them and I still like them. Those, and I'm a Lancero guy. So those Corojo Lanceros, the Aladino Lancero, like the Corojo Reserve, I love them. Like, hell yeah, let's do that. So, Justo, Julio's son, was sent some test blends, and I won't go into what they were, but like they're mostly Corojo and they're all Corojo. and we were smoking them, giving some feedback. And then I had to change the concept because like this is kind of a different animal now. It's like a cigar, kind of like our Diablo made for us by somebody else. And but to me, it was really all about that kind of heritage and that tobacco. Like you can have something that's all about the packaging. Like my dad bod was certainly all about the packaging coming in the beer cans, although it was still a good cigar. This is all about tobacco. It's about this Corojo. It's about really the last true authentic Corojo in the world, if you ask me, that this family has been sort of the keepers of for such a long time. And the way they do things there in this Bayer crop science project they're part of, the entire Vegas surrounded by eucalyptus trees to keep out wind and to give shade and to protect the very delicate Corojo from blue mold and from bugs and from everything else. You have to go through decontamination chambers to get in. And it's this kind of, that was when people talk about Cuban cigars back in the day and that sort of flavor that they have and what made them so special. It was kind of that Corojo wrapper. That's what they all had. And so to me, that's what this was all about. This is that throwback cigar where it's not super strong. It's a medium, maybe medium minus bodied cigar that just is elegant. That just has that real Corojo flavor. And that's where Golden Era came from. Like this is the cigar that'll take you back. And even the ad we did was, normally you would say the opposite, but this is your grandfather's Corojo. This is what he smoked back in the day if he were cool enough to smoke cool cigars like this. And just nice. The blue and the gold, which are punch, mainstay colors, just really kind of bringing it out, putting it in a wood box. Not a very fancy wood box. It's not, piano gloss, but if you have something that's valuable, you keep it in a sturdy container. Like if you or your wife or your kids have jewelry, you've got a little wood box or a jewelry box on the nightstand that you put your jewelry in, or your watches in a watch box. Like this is in that wood box to protect this, because this is something that needs to be protected because it's that good. And it's just that story of this very old heritage tobacco that almost went away forever, but it's still here, protected by this family in Honduras, 4 miles from our factory. And I just think that the packaging and the marketing and the cigar just all fit together so well. Really proud of it. And I know when Justo was around, he's very proud of it as well. To the point where they're excited about it. I had to send Justo and Julio the punch bobbleheads that we do every year. So there's actually Julio Aroa has one on his desk now, so nice. That makes me very proud.
There you go.
That's my job at that point.
Nice. And just to go back, I know we couldn't touch on Partagas, but there's 2 projects too that you guys are working that they're kind of like the newer ones. Again, there's another release that you guys are doing out of Miami. You have several projects that you guys have done out of Miami, and this one's the De Bronx, which is, again, I think it's great that this brand is getting a kind of its nod to Miami, so to speak, opportunity and everything. So talk to us a little bit about this project.
So we have, as a company, partnered with El Titan de Bronze a few times. And we talked about Partagas and the heritage and the history of it. People who are cigar people have great reverence for this brand. So when we talk to people, this is usually the brand people want to work on. A variety of people all kind of want to work on Partagas. So Sandy and the team was really excited to want to do a Partagas with us. So we had El Titan de Bronze make this Partagas for us. And then the game came to the naming. If you've ever been there, and I'm sure you have, El Titan de Bronze is now spelled like American bronze, Bronze, but the original spelling was the Spanish spelling. And there's a sign right in the back of the rolling gallery that says El Titan de Bronze with a C, which I loved. And I remember telling Sandy, you should switch the name back. She said, well, too late for that. But so when we did this cigar with them, I really wanted it to be an homage to their heritage and the Spanish history of both of these brands. And so we called it Partagas de Bronce as a nod to our partners in Miami. And it's just a beautiful cigar. It's that 6.25 by 46, very traditional size. All Nicaraguan tobacco, Nicaraguan Corojo wrapper. And you've seen the box. I think the packaging is remarkable. I just think it's a beautiful, amazing cigar. I know I said this about Golden Era as well, but it is one of my favorite cigars in our entire portfolio. And I think it's one of my favorite cigars to come out of that factory as well. I was also very partial to the La Gloria 8th Street, just because it was kind of very much reminded me of the old La Glorias that were made in Miami. That was
such a great nod.
It was such one of the first full-bodied cigars you'd ever had. Remember how strong La Glorias people thought they were back then? Before we keep taking it up a notch every other
keep
year.
Dialing it up.
Yeah. So I mean, that was
like more Lajero now.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing to me about Sandy and her team. We've gone to her with 3 different companies, and we've done several cigars for those companies. But when you smoke those cigars, and I'm going to trust that you probably smoked at least a few of them.
Yeah.
They really know the identities of these brands. Like our Partagas de Bronce smokes like a Partagas. That the La Gloria is absolutely a La Gloria. It's so much stronger than the other one. It's a very, full-bodied, bigger ring gauge. It's a La Gloria. And the Cohibas that they've made, they're very Cohiba. So that's the beauty of it, the artistry of it for me. Like they didn't just make the same cigar and put different bands on it. They really have the identity and the personality of that brand. And I think that Partagas de Bronce is just, I think, fantastic. I think, it is a much higher price point for Partagas. I do think, history is going to come back and kind of anoint that cigar, because I think it is really good. I think it's really beautifully packaged. I just think the whole concept of it with each box is hand signed by the roller that rolled that box. I just love all of that. And I think, people are going to look back on it in a few years and go, oh man, remember how great that cigar was, how cool that whole concept was. I think it's just great. I'm lucky enough to have still the sample bundles that they sent me that I keep pulling out once in a while. I smoke them all the time, and when they're gone, but smoke them if you got them. But I do love that. I love Sandy and Giselle, and I love that team, and I love the little they put the B in boutique down there. That's a tiny little. It's like the corner store you used to buy your candy in, but they're rolling cigars in.
It's funny, like that place, believe it or not, it's very like my roots are here in Texas. I grew up in El Paso, Texas. Man, that factory reminds me, like there's smells in there, and my grandmother never did anything with tobacco, right? But there's smells in there, and there's a look and a feel to that place that reminds me of my grandmother's home. It's really bizarre. It's so bizarre. And Sandy is just an absolute, just an impressive figure in this industry. She's fantastic.
Her life story is just, I could sit in that back room and talk to her for days. Like I love her to death. She's just such a great story. Mm-hmm. Just the way she came here and the age she came here and the things she did even before she got into this were just amazing to me. And just to have her to have the courage and the ability as a, Cuban immigrant, in her teens, to be breaking into like other professions and opening her own businesses at, very, very young ages for at that time in history, which is way less tolerant than this time in history, as a female, as an immigrant, as a Spanish speaking person, to do all that is just remarkable. And she's definitely one of my favorite people in the industry, for sure.
A model of perseverance and just dedication. Like it's just and just an incredibly sweet person too. Like, I think that, one of my, I remember just her having a conversation about, like, yeah, she's like, we, you know, does the manufacturer doesn't matter, but it was just like, yeah, we have a handshake agreement. That's all we need. I'm like, okay, like, yeah. She's like, yeah, if I don't want to do business with you anymore, I can walk away. If you don't want to do business with me anymore, you can walk away. It's the best thing ever. And I was like, wow, people like this still exist. That's crazy. That's fantastic. That's just wonderful. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's amazing, and so great that you guys get to partner with her on so many of these projects. The Valley Verde is a new one as well from Partagas too as well. What would what made this particular project so special for you personally as well? Because I know this was something that you were really excited about too.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things is I finally got to do a green and gold band, which I just love. But so, like I said before, when we talk about Partagas, there's sort of this history of innovation there with them, with us, and it's not always the biggest change, but sort of to me that innovation is sort of like is the tradition, which is weird because innovation is changing and tradition is traditional and historic, but that's the history of Partagas is constantly, first Cameroon, first this, after that. So this is the first ever San Andreas wrapped Partagas. And then also we did 3 full-time sizes, and then we did 1 limited edition, which is the box press Delicoso, which is also very, very few box press. I mean, the only box press cigar in the lineup is the Legend. But other than that, there are no box press.
Right.
And the other unique thing for me, so there's a million San Andreas cigars. I love San Andreas. Like, I like full body Nicaraguans. Many of them are wrapped in these dark, San Andreas Maduro wrappers, which I love. This is not, a Maduro wrapper. It's a natural San Andreas. And the San Andreas wrapper is from the 2020 crop. So it's an aged 3-year-old San Andreas wrapper. It's got, the history of Partagas, at least as far as we're concerned, is that yellow box, the Cameroon. So it's got an 8-year-old Cameroon binder. And then the fillers are Nicaraguan Ligero from Esteli and Jalapa, and then some more Mexican San Andreas. So you hear San Andreas, you hear Cameroon, you hear Ligero from Nicaragua, you hear San Andreas in the wrapper or in the filler. You think this is going to be really, this is going to be like a Skip Martin special, and it is absolutely not. And I'm hoping you had gotten to smoke one because just the way the aging affects this tobacco and the way they play together. This Ligero, which is obviously Ligero, it's strong in the filler, but then that aged Cameroon binder and that aged natural San Andreas wrapper, not Maduro, it just is really a very elegant San Andreas cigar. It is not a pepper bomb. Again, it's not a full-bodied cigar. You get like sweetness from the wrapper because it's San Andreas, but it's kind of like really muted, like cocoa, like powdered cocoa sweetness, not like biting into a stalk of sugarcane sweetness like you would get. And you get some spice from Cameroon, like you would expect. But again, it's 8 years old, so it's sort of muted. And then you get a little bit of that pepper from the Ligero, but it's still a medium-bodied cigar. It's not like if you smoke as many cigars as I would assume you or I do, this could be your morning coffee cigar. I mean, I would probably suggest the Connecticut Shade Cortado instead, but it's not full-bodied. It's just very medium, but it's got little bits of pepper. It's got little bits of spice. We say it's the only San Andreas that's worthy to wear the Partagas crest.
Well, both of those cigars too. I think that the elegance of it too, like the look, the green with that, the bronze with with that particular one. They're just beautifully made cigars, and then also in that the packaging on this is just very elegant, and I think it's like you said, it's very to use I'll use your words here. It's very deserving of the crest because those are some fabulous products that you guys put out for a brand that we've said it's been around for, I mean, over 200 years, 250 years almost at this point. So it's like crazy, or 150 years rather. I could do math, I promise.
Yeah,
But
next year, 2025 will be 180 years for
yeah,
Partagas.
that's crazy.
We
You
might
guys
have
got
to,
anything? You got
we
anything
might
planned for
have a
that?
celebration. I
I
don't
was
know.
gonna say, do you have anything planned for that, or
We might do something. We might do a post on social media.
sounds good?
There'll be something.
Fantastic. Well, good, 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 good. Well, John,
We can't give you all the secrets, Barry.
I understand that. I totally understand. Well, John, again, I can't thank you enough for tonight's conversation. We've got a few more questions to wrap up tonight's evening, but these are all fun, and they're not multiple choice, but they're all fun segments to be sure. So no more presidential trivia.
Good.
But good stuff on nonetheless. So let's kick things off with our everything everybody eats segment, sponsored by Pastania Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Pastania Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Pastania, everybody eats. So John, this is gonna there's a couple of variations.
Interesting Paustania trivia. I actually know a lawyer at home whose name is Wojtek, which is the
War Bear's
War
name.
Bear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey,
Which is the only reason I knew how to pronounce it when I first had that cigar, because I know a guy.
You're
with
one of the
name.
only people who did. Yeah, so we all call it the War Bear because we can't pronounce anything from Poseidon. Mike and Greg do such a great job. I love their smokes. Their new Connecticut's fire, man. It's good stuff. But this is the Everybody Eats segment. So we tonight we're gonna ask you, the guest, what's a food or dish that was your best experience eating with other people? What is your best experience?
Does this mean I'm sharing this, or I was out eating with other people when I had this?
Yeah, same. Up to interpretation, but yeah, either column A, column B, whatever you want.
Well, I will say one of the best meals, or probably the best meal I have ever had in my life, was in Paris, in sort of that. There's a very weird area that's right between like the arts district and the red light district. Like Montmartre is up on the hill, which is very where the arts is, and then Moulin Rouge and everything is down at the bottom of the hill. So right in between, we went to this restaurant called Chez Toinette. There's a little hole in the wall that I found on like TripAdvisor, and I had this duck, this canard, as we say in France, with some sort of whipped vegetable that I still don't know what it is, but it in some sort of, again, I barely speak French. I know a few words, but it was by far probably the best meal I have ever eaten anywhere in the world in my entire life. It was just so good. And I was with someone, I was with my wife, but then just because of how I am, you're pretty close together. There was a couple to my right. There was an older man who lived right in the neighborhood who was an artist with his girlfriend of 40 years. But of course, it's France, so you don't get married. And there was another tourist couple to my left who, we all shared, like there was some sort of whipped vegetable. I don't know if it was whipped sweet potatoes or carrots, but it was this almost like mashed potatoes, but it was sweet, and it was just delicious. And we were all sort of speaking to each other, trying to figure out what this was and like how much crack they put in it, because I could have just eaten a bucket full of it. But the duck was fantastic. And neither my wife nor I really eat red meat. I'm pretty militant about it. She will occasionally dabble. But so she's like, yeah, I'm in France, I'll get the veal. And she, to this day, thinks she doesn't eat red meat. The veal she had in this restaurant was the best meal she's ever had anywhere of any sort.
That's funny. I love veal. When it's prepared well, it's immaculate. I love hole in the wall places too, especially when you travel, and you find just that kind of that hidden gem and stuff. It's truly fantastic.
Yeah, because first of all, I didn't know what we're getting into, because we get off the metro and it's all of the red light district places. Moulin Rouge would be one of the classier ones. There's some other places I won't get into, And we go up this dark street. I'm like, oh, this is someone setting us up on TripAdvisor. And then, you know, you get to the address and it just looks dim. And you open the door, and it's like a curtain. And you got to like push through this like red curtain, and then you're in this little tiny, you know, restaurant. So it was a very cool experience. We met people there, we talked, we had a fantastic meal. Yeah, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wonderful. Pretty sweet.
What was yours?
Is that something you do on the regular? You go into like holes I'll answer your question. I'm not avoiding it. But
Oh,
like
no,
like
I don't go to holes in a wall. What I'll always do is if I get to an area, I'll just start looking up restaurant reviews and stuff. And always trying to find the place that locals go to. You know, if I'm in the place where the locals are, I know I'm in the right spot. You know,
mhm,
even when we go to touristy places like Ocean City, Maryland, which I'm not the hugest fan of that sort of like boardwalk, you know, thing, but my family does, so we go. But it used to be a little bar, like on the boardwalk, but off the boardwalk, like a block away. And it wasn't, you know, like a Margaritaville or something where everyone's doing it. It was just a little, it was down off the boardwalk, like a cave almost,
mhm.
for a bear reference. And then the people in there, like the same bartenders had been there for like, you know, 10, 15 years. The people in the bar were all people that had like yearly rentals down there that every summer were there. And they're just all living at the bar. It's always the same people there all the time. And that's where I would go. That would be my respite, get away from all the tourists and just hang out and have some drinks in this dark little, you know,
Mhm.
cave of a bar. And then it ended up, the building it was in got condemned, so it got closed. But yeah, I do. I want to find little places. It just almost angers me when you go to like a big city and you'll see the people like waiting in line to get into
Mhm.
the Olive Garden in Times Square.
Oh
I'm like,
God,
I'm like,
kills me.
you could throw your shoe and hit a great Italian restaurant from where you're standing, and you're going to wait in line to go to the Olive Garden, which you can, you know, do in Poughkeepsie when you get home.
Yeah, it's brutal. That's absolutely brutal. No, it, I've had some amazing meals over the years. Some that I've prepared, some that I've eaten with and stuff. Man, it's funny when you asked me the question back. It immediately took me back to sharing of other people. Sharing with other people was like the
Yeah.
key part of that for me. And I still, one of my best memories is every time. I mean, from the time I was in a young kid with friends, high school, middle school, college, even particularly college, I'd have friends visit me in El Paso, and they would always come over, and my mom and I would put together this just table full of tacos. And it was my mother's recipe that I still use to this day, my grandmother's recipe on the rice. um and I mean, they're not anything like crazy or anything like that. Like, I mean, there's some crazy great tacos out there and stuff like that. But I mean, these are beef tacos. You know, there's but and just it's just great sharing. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just destroying like just tacos. Like, it's just nuts. It's fantastic.
That's far more of a communal experience than the one I would describe. But I just thought of the best meals. That's what I went to. I
Yeah,
wasn't really
no.
going to think. No, but so I have a friend who is, you know, Indian by heritage, so he loves spicy food, and he's also a very good cook. So a lot of times, you know, getting more into that, you know, we'll go to his place. He's got a pool house on his house, which is basically a cigar lounge. So let's just call it what it is. But he loves to cook. He'll get his smoker out and he'll like smoke brisket, and then he'll obviously smoke some chicken or something for me. And then you just make all this food or make tacos, or, you know, chicken tiki masala, or just even the meats and carve them up, and then make, you know, his homemade salsas, which are so spicy. And then, you know, his outdoor picnic table is round and it's got like a lazy Susan in the middle. You just put everything on it and everyone goes up to the grill and gets, you know, pulls their meats off and comes back down to the table. And we're smoking cigars, and we're either having some, you know, beers that one of us brought, some craft beers, or we've got, you know, we sat there the one time, several of us, and I forget what we grilled, like some brisket and some chicken, and had a bottle of like Weller Antique 107 and smoked cigars and just ate and killed the entire bottle. That's it. That is great, especially with the cigars involved, because it is that communal experience with the cigars, that experiential thing, and then the bourbon didn't hurt.
Well, I mean, probably one of my favorite like cigar meal smoking experience. I mean, you have to say, I was down. I had the opportunity. Davidoff invited me down along with Coop and some other folks down. We went down, did the factory tour at Davidoff, and so we ate at Saga. That steak,
Oh yeah,
that legendary tomahawk, the company, the cigars.
yeah.
This was when Eladio Diaz was still still part of Davidoff and everything. So I'm eating steak next to Eladio Diaz, smoking a cigar that he blended. One of the best steaks I've ever had in my life, if not the best steak.
Yeah.
I mean, I have shit. I mean, I was the king of the earth, man. It was.
Yeah, it is. And when we go, it's usually a big group. So we had that room behind the glass wall,
Right, that long ass table, yeah.
And then we actually had other tables in there. We had to slide that table slightly to fit other tables in. We had so many people, but they're ordering like 6 of those tomahawks, like for the table, and then ordering everything else, and then ordering bottles of wine, and then the guys from the factory are ordering bottles of rum, and everyone's there, and there's guys from Honduras there, guys from the DR there, and then the rest of us from back here. Chris Tarr is there, who's a guy I love and I work for, but I don't get to see a lot. So to sit there and have a meal with him, and then these idiots that I work with every day that we all love each other and love to just hang out and smoking cigars. That's a fantastic experience. Saga is just something that everyone should experience at some point, especially if you're in the cigar world. That seems to be sort of the mecca in Santiago, at least. Yeah, that's a good one. I guess my mind should have immediately gone to that, because it's certainly communal, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Last time I was there, I had not seen this on the menu before. We had a foie gras sushi roll.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do that next time I'm there. That sounds good.
Yeah, I love French food, so that was I'm like, we ordered it completely ready to be like sickened by it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I destroy foie gras, man. I'm all about pate, man. I will destroy that stuff. That's so good. I mean, I love food, so this is why this question exists. So,
understood.
But I mean, the next segment, of course, it has to do with cigar smoking, which is always our silent moment when we talk about, asylum can be more than a physical place. It could be a state of mind, and some refuge is more than just that. It can. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. So moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. So John, this segment is all about like you and a cigar. You've been smoking for a long time, as you said. You were here with the original boom. This has been a passion of yours for, I'd say probably more than half your life at this point. It's been, and
sure.
Here you are managing 2 of the most iconic brands in the history of cigars, a fun one to boot. There's got to be that moment where it's just you and the cigar, like no one else around. You and the cigar. What was that moment like? Maybe what was it about? And if you can remember, what were you smoking?
Just really the defining cigar moment. There's probably been a few, because there's been so many cigars and for so long. But, I think for me, and I kind of led off with this very early on, I just think probably my wedding, you're out getting your pictures taken and everything. And I just remember my dad was, significantly older. So a lot of people would think he's my grandfather. Like he was 50 years old when I was born. So, by the time I'm getting married, my dad's already in his 70s, So I've always known my dad wasn't going to be around forever, because, he had a head start. He was already 50. So it was always something that was there in the back of my mind, which I won't get into all that. But, so having him live long enough to see me get married, was very important to me. Having danced with my wife at the wedding was important to me. Sharing that time with them, and then we did have a cigar together, at my wedding. So it was a big day for me, and got to share it with probably one of the most, if not the most, one of the most important people in my life, and to have that thing that we share together and bond over that, kind of in that moment. You're surrounded by hundreds of people, but just you two. Everything else just kind of fades away. So there have been a lot of great cigar moments, but just the fact that he's been gone for over 25 years now, I could still think about that and have that memory. Means a lot to me. And so there may be other ones, but that's probably what I would go with.
My dad was older too when he had me. He's still around, unfortunately. Good. So he's very sick, but it like you, it was very important for me to share some of those moments. He got to meet his grandchildren, which was nice for me.
Yeah, I didn't get that. That's one of my big regrets is, my dad, we waited a little while to have kids. So my dad never met either of my kids. And oh my God, he would have been a terror with them. He would have loved them because there's a lot of me in them. And there's a lot of him and me. Actually, if you ever see a picture of my dad at my age, he looks exactly like me. Like people who haven't seen me in years, like older guys will know who I am because I look just like my dad. So
that's funny. Yeah. That's awesome. Sweet. Well, John, this actually happens to be our last question to wrap up our evening, and it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for stopping in.
Thanks for having me. I honestly really appreciate it. I love to talk about cigars. I love to, I'm going tomorrow. I'm flying out to Pittsburgh. Going to do an event. Go visit some retailers, but I think that's very important for us on this side to do, which I love to do anyway. And then I'm doing an event at the Grist House Brewery in Pittsburgh, which is a brewery that I like anyway. Punch teamed up with Untapped this year, the beer app. Mm-hmm. So we're doing these kind of little Punch tailgate, like a pro events at like 5 different small breweries around the country in good punch markets. So that's really exciting for me because I love Untapped. I'm a big user of that app to begin with. And for them to partner up with us and us to be the only cigar presence like in that little world is fantastic. So I'm happy to get out and meet some people and cut and light some cigars with them and talk cigars. So I love doing stuff like this. So thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So you mentioned curveball interest earlier. Actually, funnily enough, we do have that curveball segment, which is right now. It's our final segment of the evening. The Dunbar Tobacco and Trust curveball segment. Fastballs or curveballs. It doesn't matter since the company's inception. Steve Saka has been knocking them out of the park. That's 8. Count them up. 8 years in the consecutive 8 years. 8 years consecutively in a row in the consensus top 3. Yes, I can speak English. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So tonight's curveball question is, John, you were an attorney. You were an attorney for a very long time. Tried, I'm sure, a number of cases in your day. If you could go back and retry a case, that one case, it's probably giving you nightmares, and I'm bringing it back up. What a wonderful way to end a conversation. But would you win it if you go back and retry it?
No, I wouldn't win it because the reason I lost it wasn't because of anything I did. I just think it was like everything else in life, things sometimes are a popularity contest. And I think people did not like the defendant and didn't believe him. So, because there's no way the guy should have got convicted, but other than people just didn't like him or believe him. So other than kind of getting him to be a completely different person or change his affect, and even his witnesses, no one believed them either. So
jeez.
No, I don't think it would have, it was a very simple, it was not a complicated case. It was just, it was a DUI case. And the whole defense was he wasn't driving. His ex-girlfriend, she was a girlfriend at the time, was driving. And, they had broken up long before this case ever gets to trial. She actually came in and said, no, I was driving. Now, meanwhile, it's your ex-girlfriend. How does your ex-girlfriend feel about you? She's going to come in from out of state just to testify that, no, this guy didn't do this. To me, just screams credibility, because it's not like it's his current girlfriend who's going to lie to get him out of trouble. It's someone who doesn't like him. And even with that, it's like, we don't believe it. So,
oh man, it's tough.
So yeah, I don't think it would have changed, but most of the things that went wrong were things like that. I had a case that was like a split verdict. It was we got a not guilty on the most serious charge, and then was convicted on the lesser charge, which makes zero sense because his whole defense was I wasn't there. So he either did everything or he did nothing. And jury came back and said, no, not that, but this. And then I talked to some of the jurors afterward, and their whole theory was something that was never testified to. It was no facts that were in evidence, but they, from watching everything, surmised that this thing happened that didn't happen. So that's why I always tell defendants, like, if you get a good deal, take a deal, because you never know what a jury is going to do. It's generally, a lot of times, it's not based in, fact. It's based in the way people feel. Like they don't like a person, or they go, oh, that person reminds me whatever, or you just get this bad feeling about a person. And they were convinced that this witness, I won't get into details or names, but basically what they thought was this witness said something racist to this defendant, and the defendant hit him. No one testified the guy said anything racist. No one testified about any of that, but that's what they surmised happened from, the demeanor of the witness and victim and the defendant.
Wow.
So that's the way things happen.
Wow. Did you ever try anything like, of course, this is going to be the layman in me talking. Like, did you anything high profile, like, any murder trials or anything like that?
I've had a murder case. I didn't ended up taking it to trial. I ended up, for reasons I won't get into, I had to get out of the case. But I will say I had the guy a great offer that he refused to take, despite the fact that I tried to convince him. Then when the next guy got the case and tried it, he got 3 times the time he would have gotten under my deal. I've had some stuff, that were high profile. There was a guy that was sort of a notorious child molester. Before I ever got him, like, I don't know if you remember, the milk carton kids, like they put a picture of a kid on a milk carton.
Of course, yeah.
Well, the original milk carton kid was a kid from New York, from Greenwich Village, named Eton Pates, who was missing for like 20 some years before they ever found a body. So he was the original. The guy that was the key suspect in that case for 20 some years was actually my client at one point, or something not related to that. But he was kind of well known. There's a documentary called Cropsy about like the boogeyman in Staten Island. They call him Cropsy there. Mm-hmm. It's just, the guy that comes around and steals children, why you better get home before dark or Cropsy will get you. So there's a documentary about it. So they're all trying to figure out who Cropsy actually is, because kids were going missing. And one of the key suspects in this documentary, this guy pops up and like, there's my client.
Wow.
But so we were doing this other case with him years later. Yeah, and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office was still calling me about this guy in relation to Eton Pates, like 30 years later.
Wow, that's surreal.
Yeah.
Nuts. Yeah. Again, this is Layman Talk. We were just talking about plays early on when you were in college, and it immediately took me back to one of my favorite plays that I've seen on stage, and I've seen both iterations of the film done in film. It's one of the films I hope they remake with modern day cast members, is 12 Angry Men.
Oh yeah. Fantastic.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm so into the one from the 70s. I almost hope they wouldn't remake it, just because certain things are just perfect the way they are. You don't play with them.
Yeah. So which one, the Henry Fonda one or the Jack Lemmon one where he plays your number 7?
Jack Lemmon.
Yeah. Okay. That one's good. I like both of them, man. The Henry Fonda one, the OG one, the black and white. E.G. Marshall plays the
Yeah.
stoic banker.
Henry
Or
Fonda was
stockbroker.
Henry Fonda was in a lot of legal movies. He was actually in the movie about Miranda.
Mm-hmm.
There was a
That's
movie
right.
about Miranda. He was in that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, oh gosh, it's still one of my favorites. I
Yeah,
love it.
it's
And I
great.
love singing on stage.
Yeah,
My
I have
college
not
did
seen that.
my college did a production of it at Theater in the Round, and it was just incredibly well done. And we had
That's
like
cool.
some really
That's
talented
awesome.
guys, some really talented men. They did it actually. They did 2 versions of it. They did 12 Angry Men, of course, but then they switched it up and they did 12 Angry Women, where it was an all female
Oh,
cast, which
cool.
was a really unique experience too, considering how well I know the play and I've
Yeah,
seen, like, that was really I really liked that they did. It was a lot of fun. So
that's. I mean, some of the times those things seem forced, like an all-female Ghostbusters, just to say there is one. But the
mhm.
12 Angry Women, that makes a lot of sense because that's something
Yeah.
that could easily happen and
Hmm.
probably has. And it just really modernizes it a bit because
Hmm.
at one point that wasn't really a reality. So no, I like that. It actually doesn't seem forced. It seems like a natural progression, which is nice.
Yeah, and this was, I mean, it wasn't recently, and this was back when I was in college, so like the early 2000s. And
Yeah.
like I knew some of the, on the both the male side and the female side, I knew some of the actors that were in it. And I mean, one of the women on the female cast was she was insanely brilliant. And she
There's
played.
always like that one person in the college like theater group that is just
Mhm.
like head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah, well,
There's always like one or two of them.
she played juror number 6, which is the guy at the end who's like he's trying to get to the ball game, the Tony Danza character in the
Yeah.
latter version. Yeah, so she played him, that character. And like was just it wasn't like she could have easily taken it over the top and just like, but she wasn't. And it was just really subtle and brilliant. And it was really well done. I love that. Like I said, I love that play. I love the film. I love it. It's great. It's fantastic.
That's cool, man. That's awesome.
So, well, John, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. What a great way to end this up. And thanks for the last question, kind of putting a spotlight on your legal career there. That was a little nice little trek down memory lane too. So that
Yeah,
was
it's like
fun.
a nice little callback there, as
Yeah,
we say in the business, right?
yeah, for sure. So, um, so everyone out there, I hope you guys check out the new Bull Moose from the Chillin Moose line. I've smoked 2 of them tonight. They're sensational. Great buy on them. And then I'm smoking the Punch Golden Era right now, which is just really silky and smooth. Really enjoying
So
this.
silky.
And
Feels silky and it's smoke silky. That's what's
yeah,
nice about it.
there is a silky texture to the smoke. It's
Yeah,
very
absolutely is.
there's this elegance about it, which is, again, not, when you think punch, it's definitely a different take on it. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it.
it's a really fits really well in the portfolio because there's nothing like it in the portfolio. So when we plot out things, like, and I know we're wrapping up, but we always have profile and price and stuff. So
Sure.
within that cluster, there's like 2 cigars or 3 cigars that are right in there that like look like it's the same cigar, like same sort of body and same sort of like within the same price range, but completely different experiences. And it's funny you chose the adjective silky because that was the word that I was always describing it with. So the wrapper is a very silky, elegant corojo, and when you smoke it, the smoke is like silky.
Yeah.
And I think that's dead on.
Yeah. I think it's got that, it has that texture to it. It's like there's all kinds of textures. There's like with smoke, there's velvet, there's silk, there's heavy, there's dense,
Right. Yeah.
there's chewy.
And it's
People
not
think we're
creamy.
crazy,
Like
but
there's a lot of
there's
cigars
creamy
like a
smoke
lot
too.
of
Yeah.
like a lot of placencia. I think to me smokes creamy. This is not creamy. It's silky, and then there's a difference. And
Mhm.
it's one of those cigars. And I know I got to get on the plane, but it's one of those cigars that you could give to someone who's sort of a novice And, it's not overpowering. It's a very mellow cigar for the most part. And they could smoke and just go, oh, this is nice. It's like smoking, an Ashton or a Fuente or something. But at the same time, for someone who smokes a lot of cigars, you really get like the flavors and the balance and the nuance and just the impeccable construction on it for sure. So it really is something for everybody. And I'm not saying that just because it's, my cigar. Like, I think, there are certain things that are just stand out, and this one does. And I think that's one of those cigars that I think is just really special, and I think is going to really have legs and be around for a long time. I think it's really going to become sort of a cigar that people know punch for this. And I'm really, really proud of it, and what Justin brought to the table on it, and obviously Justo and Julio, and my little contribution to it. I'm really happy with it. Couldn't be happier, and people are really liking it. Cigar Aficionado just gave it a 90, which is a kind of a rare thing for us. So that's fantastic. It's great to see consumers. Like, I love that we got the 90. That's great. And that, something we could put on ads and things, and that's fantastic. But what means more is like the people who buy it, the people who we actually make cigars for, are really enjoying it and really buying it. I mean, to the point where I think on our end, we're sold out of it until we get, more cigars in. It's been so popular. People are really responding, and that's, ultimately that's what we do it for.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm really excited about the future of these brands, John. I think you're doing a fantastic job. Really, really excited where you take these three in particular. Because I think that there's a lot, there's still so much ceiling. There's so much distance to go to that ceiling. And I'm really, really, really excited for it. I know fans out there as well. So,
Cool.
Well, for everyone out there, we really do appreciate all those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. You can always check out our YouTube page, ELOSOFUMAR. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well when you're on that page. Or if you're listening to us later, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Again, don't be sure you hit the download, subscribe, or review button. If you already are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit the word unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit the word resubscribe, because that really helps my numbers, actually, and allows me to get great guests like John whenever I want. So please keep doing that as well. Again, you can always check us out every Sunday night. We're here on the Facebook Live doing our thing. We've got a great show coming up next week. 3 national sales managers from 3 different companies will be joining a panel discussion to talk about all things in the industry, trends, what they're seeing, what it's like running 3 very different sales forces, 3 very different companies. So it'll be really exciting. So you definitely want to check that out next week. We'll have Miguel Shodell of Crowned Heads, Derek Matthews of Oveja Negra Cigars, and of course, we'll also have Dave Lafferty of Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. So 3 fantastic gentlemen will be joining us, and we'll be having a great time. So definitely want to tune in for that. We'll see you next Sunday night at 9:30 Central. But for now, this was our 265th take live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. He's John Hakim of Forged Cigar Company and General Cigar Company. Guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, Bear.